Hello, welcome back. In the last session, we discussed about what are the challenges of taking an agent to production and how Amazon Bedrock AgentCore can help us. Some of the high level features, we have explored the Amazon Bedrock AgentCore runtime. In this session, we are going to talk about one of the important tools which Amazon Bedrock AgentCore provides, which is a code interpreter tool. What it is, how it helps in agent development. Let's explore that. Now let's talk about the features of Amazon Bedrock Core Code Interpreter. So basically what is this? This is what is allowing AI agents to write and execute the code in a very secure and isolated environment. So something that is very critical when agents are solving complex problems, or they want to interact sensitive data, or they want to do some data operations like, as I told, data wrangling or maybe data cleaning and extracting some, computing some metrics from some data. This is where this feature helps. So number one, safe code execution. First of all, it makes sure that all your code executions is safe. Agents can write, run and validate the code inside a controlled environment, which helps deliver consistent and reliable outcomes. And then it is a sandbox environment. So what happens is, it happens all inside a containerized sandbox environment, meaning code runs in isolations, protecting the rest of the systems and any sensitive data from without unauthorized access. Other feature is data leak prevention, right? This setup, with the way this sandbox environment is set up, actually reduces the risk of data leaks. Whether some type of a malicious code or some simple human error, the sandbox prevents any security incidents before they occur. And it supports multi-language. So as of now, you're having support for Python, JavaScript and TypeScript, and even comes some preloaded, some commonly used libraries. So agents can get started with the any language like a Python immediately. And finally, it supports very large files up to 5 gigabytes when uploaded via S3, and every single execution is logged through CloudTrail. So what it means is that you have some transparency, you have some auditability, and then it is easy to debug. So overall, this is a building block for a safe enterprise ready AI agents that not only reason, but they can do some compute, some calculations on the fly by writing some code and executing them. Let's now explore why the code interpreter is such an important, powerful tool for AI agents. Number one, it helps the agents for multi-step workflows. So what it means is that now agents can go just beyond some simple prompt response interaction. It can allow, agent can now perform complex workflows, like it can analyze some data set, it can summarizing results and generating visual insights, all within a single session based on the data you provide. And then the reason being, it helps the agent to process structured data. It also makes easy for agents to handle, for example, structured data format like a CSV or Excel or JSON. Why this is important for critical real world use cases is that a lot of times the data which you get is going to be in some kind of a CSV file or an Excel file or a JSON file, and you require a lot of data wrangling, cleaning and transformations. So by having a code interpreter tool, agent in real time can perform the data cleaning, or maybe for example, you are passing some data and agent want to make sure that before it can process that data, it has to remove some null values, remove some special characters. So instead, that means agent can do all these things, operations on the fly, while it is trying to answer some questions or perform some action for the user. And another important feature is that its security remains a top priority. The code interpreter makes sure that any code execution happens in an isolated environment, so that any internal systems or customer data are not exposed to the outside world. And one of the most important features is that it can help the agent to validate its output with the real-time code. So for example, if an agent is doing some computations, so you want to have agent first run that output through some code which involves some calculations or running some algorithm, so that it can validate the output of the agent with a real-time code. And the other important feature is that it supports long running tasks. So the code interpreter supports longer compute times from 15 minutes all the way up to 8 hours, which is perfect for a deep data analysis or multi-step code execution. So what it means is that whether you are trying to do some simple output verification, or you are doing a data wrangling, cleanup, or analysis on a massive data set, you can still do that because of the time you are having. It can go from it up to 8 hours. So all these capabilities makes the AgentCore code interpreters not just a feature, but it is one of the foundation for building a reliable, secure, and most importantly, an agent which is intelligent. Now let's check the demo of this tool. I am using the sample notebook provided by Amazon in their GitHub repo. You can also download that. I am also going to provide the link for this particular notebook in the video comments. Now before we start, you need to make sure that you have a role, and the role have this policy attached. So let's see how this basically the code interpreter tool works. So you have the user passing a query to the agent invokes the LLM. One of the tool selection LLM makes is the code interpreter session, code interpreter tool. So within that there is a code interpreter session it creates. That session will have the code interpreter, the shell, the access to file system, everything. So this session is going to create the code, execute the code, and pass the result back to the user. Now coming back to our code, how it is working, I have already installed all the required libraries. So first we'll start importing the required libraries. We are setting the code client, and we are starting the session, and we are saying this is our region where we are doing. So what I do is, first I'm having a data.csv file. I'm going to read that CSV file and see what is there in that. So I'm having a simple CSV file with the name, preferred city, preferred animal, preferred thing. This is a CSV file we are going to work on. Okay. So what we do first thing is we read the file and then read the contents of the CSV files into data file content. I'm going to explain why we are doing that. So first, for now, we are going to read this entire CSV file contents into this data file content. And then we are creating this dict which says that we are going to create these files to create with the path for that CSV file on the contents. The reason is, before we can actually start working on this tool, we want to store this particular CSV file in the sandbox environment, so that the code which is getting executed has got access to this particular CSV file. So to make our job easier, to call the tools and everything, I am creating a function called call tools, which will take the tool name and then the argument. It will invoke the code client with that tool name, with that argument. So we created, if you see in the top, this is a code client is what we created over here, right? This is the code interpreter tool, and then the client for that code interpreter. So now I will execute this one. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to read my current file from the local, and then I'm going to store that particular file in the sandbox environment. So I've already done that. It may take few seconds, in a couple of seconds to minutes. So to save some time, I have already read the file and then stored that file in the sandbox environment. Now we'll start our data analysis. So far we have created the code client, and then we have read a CSV file, and then we have stored the CSV file into the sandbox environment. Now we will start a system prompt, which is very, very critical. So we are saying you are a helpful AI assistant that validate all answers through the code execution using the tool provided. So do not answer any questions without using the tool. So we are also giving some validation principles, like something like, when making claims about code, algorithm or calculation, write the code to verify them. We are saying what is the approach we are saying, and what is the tools available and what is the response format. And we are also giving some instruction that be thorough, accurate, always validate your answers when possible, right? So this is our prompt. Now we need to define the tool required for this particular agent. What is the tool required? It requires a tool to execute a Python code. So for that reason, I am writing a tool. You can see that there's a tool decorator is there, execute Python code, and then we are passing the code here, some description about the code, and then we using the code client, we are using the execute code. And we have to pass the code, the language, clear context, false, and then sending the response back. If you are taking the notebook as it is from the Amazon website, even Amazon repo, you will not see this one because they assume some default model, but that will not work. So you need to create your own Bedrock model and use that model. So this is one change you should do to their the existing notebook. So I have taken Bedrock model, I have added this model ID, I'll be using that. So now I create an agent, I'm creating an agent using Amazon Strands framework. So what I'm doing is the agent, I'm saying the model we are using Anthropic Claude Haiku model, and the tools I'm saying execute Python tool. That means it has got access to the executing a Python code. And then system prompt is we are passing, callback under none. As of now we don't have any callback. Okay, now we will start performing we need to execute this tool, and then we need to execute this agent. We need to have this agent created. So, system, I think I didn't execute this part. So now we executed this one. So now this agent is created. Now you can see that I'm saying perform EDA or exploratory data analysis on the data file data.csv. Tell me about the distribution and outlier values. So we are passing this query to the agent, and stream async we are calling stream async method, and then when they get the response, we are printing the response. So let's execute this particular cell. Now let's see what happens. Now what is happening? It is taking the data.csv file. You can see that it is actually this file is missing. Yeah, there was some issue with the data.csv file not available, so it is able to load it right now again. You can see that it is generating the code. First of all, generating the code required to do the analysis, and it is actually reading the loading the data. So it is still working on the code. The cell is still executing. It first generate the code, and then after the code is generated, it is executed the code, and then now it is printing the results. So name column has a long tail distribution. It's saying what is the preferred city, what is how many times it has come. It is identifying the outliers and doing some EDA. So what is important thing here is that you just simply said data.csv perform EDA. The agent actually generated the code, right? Once it generated the code, it is using the execute Python tool to generate that particular to execute that code, and then compile you the results. Imagine this is a very powerful feature. So if you're building some agent, and then you are having some raw data, and then your agent has to first read the data and then do some maybe compute the mean or median of that particular data and use a mean value, or maybe some compute the average value from a big CSV file. It's kind of really easier. You can just create a tool called execute Python and tell the agent, hey, whenever you see a CSV file, compute the mean from this CSV file. So it's kind of easier for the agent to do that operation, right? So, or you could have, typically this happens in a multi-agent fashion. So you will have multiple agents. One agent will compute any calculations from a raw data, and another agent will take it and do some analysis. So in that way, even if you are having a multi-agent system, it kind of easier. One of the agent can do this code execution. So we can also test further we can again, we are seeing that within the file data CSV, how many individual with the first name Kimberly or crocodile as their, with first name Kimberly have crocodile as their favorite animal. So let's execute this one. Now again, it has to find this one. You can see that it is first building the data, loading the data from CSV file. It is doing this loading the data in data frame, trying to find this name start with Kimberly and then preferred crocodile, doing that filtering on the data, and then it is counting the data, and then it says that so there are 120 individual first name Kimberly who have crocodile as their favorite animal, right? So this simple example will shows you that how you can actually leverage code interpreter tool to do the operations on execute some code on the fly. This is such a powerful tool that you can, if you think of some use cases, there are a lot of use cases where you want to execute some code on the fly, and then this will help you. In the end, we can stop our code interpreter session. So we are stopping the session. So now the code interpreter is stopped successfully. So this is about the code interpreter. And thanks for watching. We will see about other features like memory, observability, RNT in the coming sessions.